All right. All right. All right. Welcome back to our OpenStack Cloud course class. Today's day 4. I'm your trainer and architect, Sal Cosentino. Today's date is April 7th, 2025. Um, in our last class, I want to kind of not talk about everything about last class, but kind of help you with kind of discussing our topics today. And one of our main topics was to kind of get you to go and review our assignments that were given to you, Wayne, and whoever's watching the video. Hopefully, you guys have already started with that and get those virtual machines creations. Um, I also want you to use your Windows 10 or 11 laptop to create RAID by using the computer management. Um, it's called a service, right? So that is and then a virtual machine, which is also obviously what we're doing. We're not going to be using our laptops for this, and we're not going to be using our Windows 10. We're going to be using our Microsoft server for this instance. And I think we're going to go with 2019 or 2022. It depends on what you have installed, but whatever your flavor is, I'll put all 3 flavors for you just in case. All right, so that is what I want you to use. And I want to show you how RAID works. I know we spent the last couple classes talking about what RAID is, the different styles of RAID and whatnot. And I want to show you how to use RAID by using your computer management software, right? There's the 2 different types. So you have your when you have a bare metal machine, and let me pop up a picture here for you. So there's 2 different flavors. There's your Hyper 2, and then there's your Hypervisor 1. Um, so when you're managing your disks in a Hypervisor 1 environment versus your Hypervisor 2 environment, right? And you're gonna have your OS, right? And then on top of that is your hypervisor, and then this one is just going to be a hypervisor that's in your um, hypervisor 1. Oops, spelled that wrong there. Sorry about that. Make this a little bit smaller. And again, we kind of briefly talked about that, Wayne and everybody else here watching. And then we also have our hypervisor 2 that sits on top of the operating system that we're using currently. So in your case, this would be your laptop, and then your laptop has Windows 10 or 11, right? And then Windows 10 or Windows 11, right? And then we have our applications that sit on top, and we're gonna have our software called VMware Workstation Pro, and this is our hypervisor 2, type 2. Right? So that's going to help you understand um, the differences, hopefully, and get a picture of that and how that works. So we have our 2 differences here, right? So when we're working between our hypervisor 1 and our hypervisor 2, our RAID system is basically set up in this in our hypervisor 1. We have a RAID system that's set up by default through our hard drives, our physical hard drives. So these are our physical hard drives, our physical disks, right? So there's an actual uh, it's an actual service within the BIOS. So this is done in the BIOS, and then you could set your BIOS, your disks by using the IOE software, the IO software that's on there, and by that you're typically installing it. I'll show you what I mean by that. Show you here. This picture here might help, right? So see if I can get you a good picture of how it's created in the BIOS. So we can create a RAID in the BIOS setup. It all depends on your Intel motherboard model, and at the point you'll enable RAID by either following these steps. So again, you can then hit F2 and then hit the power on self-test. Memory state begins, and then that way you could select your configuration and then the SATA drive menus. And we could set up the RAID mode to RAID, And then within that, we can save the BIOS settings and then exit the BIOS settings. And this is a typical image, Wayne. If you could see that, I'm sure you've seen this before. I don't know if you see that.
I see it.
You got your different slaves and masters, right? Your different IDE channels, and we're talking about almost 17 years ago. This is how we used to set up RAID. So you have your multiple disks, your channels, your different channels, right? So you had your channel 0, channel 1 master slave, channel 2 master, channel 3 master, if there were any, and then channel 4 had a master and a slave. So that's where we would kind of, have our disks there, and we could set up our RAID. Here's another option here. I don't know if you see that. This is a little bit older style. You'll probably remember this. You'll probably seen this before. So we can kind of set our bays, right, and our available physical disks, and we could set our RAID configurations here. Let me see if I can get an arrow. See if I can get you bigger arrows here. Might help. Oh, do you see that? So
Yes.
this arrow here, so that's our RAID configuration. So we would set our port, our box, our bay, and then within our bay, it would be our 241 gig SATA SSD. We could set our parity count group. We could set our maximum boot partitions if we needed, if there were any drives that we wanted as a spare. And this was called the Smart Array, HP, Smart Array back in the days. And this was back in 2010. So we're looking at almost 15 years ago. And as you can see, I'm setting up a RAID plus 0 configuration where you have your RAID 0 inside and then inside of your RAID 1 configuration, right? So we can set it up however we want. And here's another little bit something more newer where we're setting up our RAID, our Dell perks. I don't know if you ever heard of a perk machine, where we have our different physical disks, right? Our SAS drives. And then these would be our online, and we can actually rebuild them and put these online based on the physical disk management, right? So as you can see, if we see something that's failed, we would go into our perk system, our integrated RAID controllers, our configuration managers here, our configuration utility managers, and we could take a look at our physical disk management. And as you can see, these are the different, let me see if I get you a little pointer. You see my pointer? So as you can see the disks that are online. These are SAS drives, are 2.728 terabytes each, right? And then you have a
Hmm.
failed one. And as you can see, the numbering systems here, you'll note the numbering system based on the base. So these are a little bit more newer, and obviously the more advanced you go, the more you're gonna see different configuration controllers. And in this setup here on a physical Dell bare metal machine, we're creating a VM on a RAID controller. So this is where I can kind of create my virtual machines within our my RAID controller. So within here, I'm able to now create on in my hypervisor software. I'm here to create my virtual machines, right? So that's what that is. That's the difference between the two. So and then within our hypervisor 2, we're using our Workstation Pro software, right? This is all software based, and then we're going to create our machines within here. So we're actually creating our two machines inside our hypervisor 2 using our VMware Workstation Pro. Whereas here we're creating them on top of the bare metal machine. Okay,
Hmm.
straightforward, easy. Any questions so far? And these are some setups that I took, that I've used and seen a lot, right? And you can create virtual disks, as you can see, on a physical bare metal machine. And this one here is a HP Perk H730P Mini. And as you can see, these are just foreign configurations, right? You could see our bay numbers, everything set up, physical disk number, bay number, et cetera, right? Here's another older one. Maybe you might remember this too, but you have your you have your arrays, right? That were started with A00 and then went down to 005 in our array channel. This was a little bit older. I used to deal with these a lot, and we used to build these these array controllers on arrays from this Dell Power Edge. Now, arrays. When you hear the word arrays, you're taking your physical disk and you're organizing them. An array can be one or more disks, like I told you, right? So when we're looking at the picture, it could be one or more disks, right? So here's disk one, here's disk two, or here's disk one and here's disk two, right? Sorry, disk one and disk two, right? On your physical disk.
Mhm.
So we also have our logical drives, right? And if you could see them, our logical drives are known as disks. That's what's required by our operating system to function. And this is where we see with the disks, where we see where our operating system is, and where we see where those disks, where we see with the disks and what's created within those. So that we call a logical disk. Um, so we have our arrays, we have our logical disks, and then we have our physical disks that go inside the array. So we have our ID numbers here on the side. I'm going to put an arrow here for you. You see my arrow? Make this a little bit bigger. It's here. Okay. So you see these IDs here in this RAID channel. You have ID 0. That's known as your physical disk, right? So that'll go, so this physical ID, sorry, this physical disk, we're starting with ID 0, right? Goes into array A00-0 and so forth. Your physical disk ID 1 goes into array A1 A01-00. So as you see as we further and then as you could see is you'll see the three disks here, right? In ID1, your physical disks. So your physical disk ID1, your physical disk ID2, and your physical disk ID3 all have the same RAID array. So those are where your RAID controllers are built. So we're taking physical disks and we're going to organize these three IDs, these three physical disks, and organizing them into one RAID array. Got me?
Okay.
So as you could see, A1, A01, A01. So these are three physical disks, right? In one RAID array. So this is a RAID, basically. So right here, let me make this a little bit bigger for you. You see these disks right here? You can denote by the lettering in this. And this is how it used to be back in the days, right? So let's put the fill. Oh, fill. All right. Do you see that? A01-00, A01-00, A01-002. So in this instance here, A00 would have our operating system, and then this would act as our RAID controllers in our RAID array. With me?
Which one is the RAID controller?
Our RAID controller would be our built-in array. So A01 would be our RAID controllers.
Okay.
That makes sense? Gotcha. Got it. And this was back, and this was still on the Perk BIOS configuration. So a lot of these old machines, these Dell machines, they would use these. We would rebuild the physical drives, right? And they would use Perk. I don't know if you ever heard of a Perk machine. This is where we can kind of configure our RAID controllers, right? And there's three physical disks, right? So these three physical disks, 001, 00, and 002, that's noted in the box. Let me make this a little bit thicker. All right, you see this box here? 0-00-01-02. Those are three physical disks in the same RAID array, A01. With me?
Okay.
Does that make sense? So what it is in this picture here, in this channel, the RAID channel, we have our logical disks with ID 0, 1, 2, and 3, right? We have our RAID arrays that start with A00 and A01. Those are our RAID controllers that we build an array. So those arrays will take our physical disks and organize them. An array can be one or more disks. Remember that, because our RAIDs, we can have RAID 1, we can have RAID 0 plus 1, we can have RAID 0 plus 5, we can have RAID 10, we can have RAID, whatever RAID we want it to set up. This is what we're going to use to set it up, right? So we can have a RAID channel 0, and then we'll have a SCSI channel 1, right? So the two channels in RAID array softwares are kind of aware of that the SCSI controllers and that the RAID controllers exist, right? So it's kind of hard to understand, but once you get into it, you'll see the actual, you'll see and I'll send you this information so that you have it. And again, we can set up the physical disks and organize them into arrays. And then from our arrays, we can create our logical disks, which is what I did here. This is my picture. Actually, I took this picture. And our logical disk is what's seen by our operating system. Okay? So our logical disk is what's seen by the operating system. Remember that. Um, there is no, there's one, there's two RAID arrays. Yeah, array A00 and A01, right? One is going to have our operating system, and the other one is going to be our RAID arrays. It's going to be our RAID controllers, right? We're going to have our RAID stripe, whatever we want to set up in this. So these three disks will be part of our RAID 1, our RAID 0, our RAID 5, and our RAID 10. Here's another image here with something saying online, what's online and what's not online. So we could tell here what's online, denoted in this picture here. Let me get my arrow. You see that that's online basically. So our ID 0, our logical drive ID 5 is online, and it's part of the A1 um A1 array, right? And it's our third disk, right? So this will be our third disk. So a physical disk, remember, our physical disk starts with it has an ID number. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are our physical disks, right? And then when you see the arrays, it's A00, that's our array, and it has one disk in that array called 00. So we need to create a logical disk that'll hold our operating system. So in this ID 0 with A00-0, we're going to put our operating system on here, right? The three physical disks, 1, 2, 3, and this is will help you answer the prelude to answering your question. Um, our ID 0, our ID 1, 2, and 3. Those are three physical disks that will become one logical disk to the operating system. Okay. So that operating system will see two logical disks. The second logical disk is made up basically A00 and A01. And then that second logical disk, A01, is made up of three physical disks. So you have one array, three physical disks, and one logical. Okay. Just want to make sure that you understand. There was also a config utility back in the days on the old Power Edges, on our old Power Edge servers, where we had to, we had an easy config that wouldn't disrupt the array, any existing array. So we had this something called easy config. We also had new config where we will delete any existing arrays, right? And then we can wipe it out using this new. Let me get an arrow here. All right, wait. All right. So, this new configuration is where we would delete or add, or basically use it when we started with a blank array. So if we had an array that was a C drive for an operating system, we would come here and use that. Then we had our objects, our logical and our physical disk, right? Logical is virtual, and then our physical drive is as I denoted here. So this is your logical, and this is your physical. These are also called logical disks or V disks. Okay, so it's good to note this, Wayne, because it is important, right? We can use these objects like these adapters, these channels, the battery information. We can use it to delete logical drives after we created an array, any array that we wanted. Let's say, for example, array 5, and then we can delete the logical drive, right? Of whatever logical drive it was, and then we can go from there. So here's another array, as you can see, that I worked on here, right? Where we had our ID 0, our A00 is our C drive with our operating system installed, and then our physical disks are ready on the side and or front of our RAID controller, right? So whatever our RAID controller was here in this picture here, these ones were ready. Let's see if I get my arrow again. So I don't have a pen. I should get a pen. Let me try to get a pen here. Here you go. So these are my ready states, as you can see, right? And then our ID one, right? We can select it and assign, we can select them now once they're in a ready state, and we can select it and give it our RAID arrays. Um, that's that. Here's another setup where we can set up RAID ready systems in laptops and optiplexes. These are some desktops. So this is where we can set it up based on the Intel desktop board model, and we can enable RAID. As you can see here, if I can make this a little bit bigger for you, we can enable RAID in our physical desktops, right? So it's called RAID technology. Have you ever heard of it?
So,
Have, have you ever heard of it? Okay. Well, we can enable after the power on self-test memory begins, we can select the advanced menus in our desktops. So this is an Optiplex model, and we can set up the operation for RAID on, where SATA is configured to support the RAID modes. And there is an enablement in the motherboard. It's called the RAID technology. If that's inside of that machine or Intel Rapid Storage, we call it, so we can actually go there and download the executable for that specific version that matches and then just run the executable, right? So we can install these rapid storage technology user interfaces in our desktop environments as well too, Wayne, and our laptops. And here's some like steps that I have that I can definitely share with you if you're interested. We can actually set up the RAID system here, right? So we'll open up that, and as you can see,
so you're talking about for a laptop, not the VMs and our
this is
hypervisor.
no that yeah, this is just for a laptop if you're doing it through a laptop. If your laptop is your server, like a lot of like what you could do too is use your server as a laptop, even if it's a 32 gig. You can have a 32 gig laptop, right? So your laptop, let's say this is your laptop here. Let me see if I can get you a picture. Get a picture of a laptop. Do you understand where I'm going with this? So
Yeah,
what we
if you
can
want to
do
use your
is
laptop as your
yeah,
physical
yeah,
laptop as the
yeah,
server.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you have two drives, external drives inside your desktop, like a lot of people back, like we're talking about 20 years ago, we can add two or three physical disks in a server desktop or a laptop, and we can add a secondary disk that's USB port. It's just a USB port. So this is connected to a USB, and then this will be your external drive, sort of like what you're using right now. And then you have your disk that's inside the laptop, and then you have your external disk on your laptop or desktop. So even if this was a desktop or a laptop, you could still do that, and you can set up your RAID use. And I'll show you how to do that when we look at your thing. And some of these desktops have the Intel Rapid Storage, or laptops have the Rapid Storage technology, so we can enable these in our BIOS, right? I can send you some info if you want to take a look. If you ever, you have any old machines or any Dell machines that you want to take a look. Here's what a RAID controller looks like. So this is, if you have this installed, right, in your desktop, then that's where, this is called a RAID controller, right? So the H730P, it's got doubling IOP performance. It comes with, 12 gigabits per second SAS support. And this is what's going to manage our storage, right? So this is
Mhm.
what a RAID controller looks like. And if we click on this, we can take a look at the spec sheets. If it opens, maybe it's a dead site, but I have to take a look at. Let's see if I can get the spec sheet. So if we get you a better link here, I'll post this for you in the chat. Any questions so far? You understand? Like I'll have to find something for you. But this is what it looks like. And then if we're configuring it, this is how we would install it in our bare metal servers. As you can see, I was installing a RAID controller.
Mhm.
This is yeah. So I couldn't find a good picture, but this is an old one that one of my colleagues had, and I've been using this to train for a while. But I was explaining to him, I'm like, yeah, this is how you install it. and took some pictures, and I'm like, okay, let me use this for my documentation. This is how we would boot up the R710. Again, to the BIOS boot manager, we would do a Control R to boot up the RAID controller and show your diff. And this is a little bit more newer. A lot of these, you'll see a lot of these servers, they'll have the perk integrated BIOS configuration, and you'll see all my disks here. So in this picture, we have 8 physical disks in this picture here. I don't know if you see that. There's 8 physical disks.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. And they're all 278 gigabytes in one RAID array. Okay. You
Mhm.
understand? So this
And
is
then
our RAID array.
within that 8, there's one RAID controller.
There's one RAID control. Yeah. There's one RAID
Okay.
control. Good question. Um, there's the RAID controller should be installed. Yeah. You can have more than one, but I think there's only one. I don't remember what this had. But typically, yeah, there's only one that's installed. From we installed just one. I'll get back to you if we can have multiple. I'm sure you can have multiple. Good question though. I'll find out if there's more. We can add multiple RAID controllers, but for now, let's say that we have one controller, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Sure. Sure.
So again, we could create a RAID 1 volume. Remember, it needs 2 disks, right? RAID 1, you need 2 disks. Remember, we talked about this in an old class. Um, we talked about RAID. I think we did. Did we talk about it? Yeah, we did.
We did. Yes.
We talked about the RAIDs. We need them all. Okay. Just let me remember if, yeah, we did talk about it in our second class. Yeah. Okay. So just remember you need 2 disks. And that's important. Yeah. See, you need 2 disks for RAID 1. So again, RAID 1 mirrors the same disk, like I told you, on ensuring that our data security through fault tolerance, there's ensuring data security through fault tolerance or redundancy. So um, as you can see here, this is our physical disks and not a logical disks. So we're not creating anything. And within here, we can set our strip, our read policies and our write policies. We could set the size for our virtual disks, right? So we can create
Mhm.
a virtual disk here, right? A new virtual disk, based on these IDs, these disk IDs, and we can create a RAID 1 volume. And then remember, it needs 2 disks, right? Like I told you before. So again, I can share this stuff with you. I can go on forever about RAID, but we call it fast int. That's our top. That's what I call it fast int, where it initializes it. And then within our physical disks, you can create our virtual disks. As you can see here, I've created a virtual disk here, and our initialization, we initialized it. So we initialize the disk, and you'll see what initializes means, right? When we start with your Windows Server machine, I'll show you what I mean by initialize the disk, turning it online and offline. Remember, initializing will destroy data, right, on the virtual disk. So imagine initializing as a fresh new disk, physical disk that we're initializing for the first time, right? So if there was data on it, it'll destroy it, right? Um, so in this one here, I created a RAID 0 with the remaining disks that were available. A RAID 0, as you can see my second arrow here. This is my RAID 1 array, and then this is my RAID 0, with 167.25 gigabytes, so almost 1.5 terabytes. Um, and again, remember to initialize using fast int in this instance, right? When we're creating those virtual disks. Um, I explained all this stuff. This can tolerate the loss of one disk. This and RAID 5 is a maximum of 3 disks. So if I want to set up a RAID 5, I need a minimum of 3 disks. Whereas RAID 1, I need a minimum of 2, right? So as you can see in this picture, I had my disks here, my minimum, and I created that RAID based on that minimum and max. Okay, that was RAID. I wanted to bring that up again because, I wanted you to learn that, and this is how we're going to use our Windows Server VM, virtual machine, or desktop, or laptop, right? I'll show you how to do that. So another thing I want to discuss about is what the purpose of a hypervisor is, right? Our purpose of a hypervisor is to host virtual machines and to use the full capacity of the hardware. So you want to make sure that our hypervisor is hosting. That's what our hypervisor does, right? So just remember that because that is important. And it is important to note, right, that the purpose of a hypervisor is to host virtual machines. Okay, very,
Mm-hmm.
very important. Um, and hosting an operating system is installed on top of the server for its own running. So remember, when you're, as I showed you here in the pictures, right, you're hosting the hypervisor 2 on top of an operating system here, right? With me? So
Yes.
here's our operating system, and the hypervisor sits on top of the hypervisor sits on top of the operating system, right? And again, it's there, it's installed on a server on top of the server for its own running. So we're utilizing our operating system will utilize again our physical resources, right? So let me see if I can get you a better picture here. Right? So you'll have your physical resources in your local environments and in your systems. So for example, this is a company. This company one is part of a local environment that's managed by a service provider company. And then this has our Dell servers, our Lenovo servers, and our HP servers. Here's something I drew a little bit quickly. And again, in our local environment, our physical servers have with an hypervisor installed in it already. So our local environment will have those hypervisors installed in it. And then on top of our hypervisors, again, we'll have our virtual machines, which will be hosting, right? So these little blue boxes. Our current company's data centers, again, are usually virtualized. So if this was our data center, it'd be virtualized or it could be physical. They, meaning VMware or other hypervisor companies such as Hyper-V. And I showed you what Hyper-V is. Did I show you what Hyper-V was? We're also going to install that together. So again, from here, we can just migrate our virtual machines from our local hypervisor, as you can see the arrow, to our AWS cloud, to our uh, Azure cloud or to a GCP cloud. And again, we as again, and it's also good to know like we're creating our virtual machines, we're creating our storage, and within these cloud providers, we can create databases or we can migrate these already machines. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did a little bit. I showed you my environment, and I'm gonna get you to install it too, so that you have that as well too as a hypervisor. It's a second hypervisor. A lot of companies will have VMware, or they'll have a KVM, which is Linux, Red Hat, or Ubuntu, or some of them will also have, and it's good for you to know too, right? They'll have Hyper-V, which is Microsoft, right? So within here again, we can convert our local machine, like these two machines here, we can convert them to virtual machines from our VMware format to our AWS cloud provider, to our VMware format to Azure cloud provider, or our VMware format to our GCP cloud provider, right? We need to know how virtualization works, especially in this instance, because it is important. We're not just converting these virtual machines, but we need to know what virtualization works, like how we're creating virtual machines, how we create storage, databases, and networks. This is where we're going to manage. And again, we don't manage the underlying hardware, right? Like our engineers would normally manage it here. Let me see if I can get a pic in there. So our engineers would manage this, right? Our underlying hardware, right? Whereas if something goes down, right, here, right, they have their own, like Microsoft, AWS, GCP, they have their own engineers that'll manage it. We don't have to manage it. So it's a difference, right? We need to know what the relationship between our on-premises virtualization with the cloud, right? So we need to be able to handle the underlying hardware in our data center from our managed service provider company. And if a machine or server goes down, we need to just replace it here, right? So if this goes down, we just replace the server, right? If this goes down, then our engineers will replace it for us. That makes sense?
It does.
Yeah,
So
right?
do
This
quick
will,
question,
yeah, this makes sense.
one operational question. So the engineers, let's say that local on-premise data center, they would have like extra servers. They would swap things out like that. They would
Yeah,
tap.
we would either order it, we would go to the marketplace, right? We would go to the internet, we would go to the marketplace. For example, we would go to, go to the internet, obviously, right? So if this was our internet,
You might have some like disk drives. You might have a few of those extra, but
yeah, we'd have some disks, yeah, but what if the whole server went down? How are we going to replace the machines if the whole server goes down, right? You would have your RAID configurations, but if the server goes down, the underlying hardware, I mean, sorry, if a machine server goes down, we need to replace the machine. If something goes wrong with the power system, we can replace whatever. We can do break fix. We can be mechanics and fix it, however we want. But if this machine would physically go down, where the motherboard fried, how are we going to replace it? We need to replace the server, right? But if this machine goes down in the cloud provider, do you understand where I'm going with this? So
I do.
we would go to the marketplace, right? We would go to the marketplace, right? Oh, if this pen works, does it want to work or no? Okay, lock this. Okay. Uh, yeah, so we go to the internet, we'd purchase the server. If it was a Dell server, or a Lenovo server, or an HP server, right? We'd buy the server, we'd go there, we'd purchase it, right? And then we would get that shipped back to our company. Once it was shipped back to our company, we would install it, and then this would work fine, right? And then we can just, add our disks back to wherever it is, right? We can swap our disks or move our disks. Even if our disks are okay, we just swap our disks, right? But this is where I'm trying to say, like, as engineers, we need to go ahead. If we need to replace it, we need to replace it if it goes down. But in terms of going to our cloud provider like Microsoft Azure, AWS, Amazon AWS, Google Cloud providers, they manage their own underlying hardware with their engineers. So if something goes down, they'll take care of it. Obviously, right? It's basically, if an availability zone goes down, right? You have an availability zone that goes down in a region, right? I'm sure what they'll do is in that region, their engineers will go there and they'll fix that machine, that server, right? Even if that server has, like, let's say 1,000, users that are connecting to this availability zone. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So they'll have their own engineers do that. We don't have to do that. Just remember that. We don't do that, right? This is where we would create the ticket, or we would call them and create a ticket and ask them for our money back if we wanted to. But virtualization, between our virtualization on premises, right? Creating our virtual machines on our local environments, depending on whatever company it is. So in this instance, company two's local environment, we're the managed service provider, right? And then on top of that is our OpenStack software, right? So if one of these machines go down, right, all we need to do is replace the machine. Simple. The motherboard fries, we replace the machine. But if it happened here, then managing the underlying hardware would be the engineers. If they need to replace RAM, right? Sorry, their hardware goes down in their physical data centers, then they would have to go ahead and fix that. We're not going to fix that. So that's the difference. And it's also important to note. Um, Again, uh, going back to our RAM, CPU, network, hard drive, and again, this is compared to our hypervisor OS. So we'll utilize our OS, we'll utilize RAM, it'll utilize CPU, it'll utilize network, it'll use a hard drive, right? Hard disk. Compared to our hypervisor's OS, right? So in our hypervisor 2, like in Hyper-V, for example, we can we can install. our OS virtually. We can create our virtual machines with RAM. We can create our virtual machines, and this is something that you did. We can give it two NIC cards, virtual NIC cards, and we can give it NAT, right? We can add a second disk, sort of what I showed you. And these VMs, right, are also, well, these VMs will also use virtual RAM, right? They'll also use physical RAM. I mean, sorry, virtual CPUs, virtual hard disks, and virtual networks as a one-to-one from our physical machines, right? So our physical machines have CPU, RAM, and hard drive as well too, and network cards, right? Just like our virtual machines, they'll have the same thing. Um, you asked me a question the last time. Somebody asked me a question the last time about what a VMDK is. And again, when we're naming these VMDKs, right, because we're using thin provision, the 00001 refers to the snapshot delta disk. And the S001 means that it's been split into multiple segments. And I think I mentioned the word sectors, but it's segments. Okay. Um, so if we're breaking down this MDK file, for example, VM name like Wayne's OS, OpenStack, Ubuntu 001, give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. So again, when we're breaking down these files, we're breaking them down snapshot delta disks, right? So this is our delta disk file. So that's what the refers in VMware. And then the dash S001 or dash S002 just means that it's split into multiple segments. So this one would be segment 001. Okay. VMDK stands for virtual disk machine format, virtual machine disk format. We also talked about trying to manually delete them, and I think that came up in a conversation. Um, we don't try to manually delete them from the disk unless you're sure that no snapshots are active, right? If we find that these snapshots are active, that can corrupt the VM. Okay. These are things that we need to avoid, uh and like, and just kind of be mindful of how we're basically trying to manually delete them if we manually delete them. So again, when you have your VM, that's the name of the virtual machine, and I think we named it OS Ubuntu, and then the date, and then the -001. It's just the first snapshot. So it just this means that it's the first snapshot of the VM, where the S001, S002, and so forth is the first split segment. So this one here is just the first split segment of that snapshot. Now, what are these files? And this is where not just the ingenuity comes in. This is where it's been always architected by the VMware um, people. So when we take our snapshot of a VM, Wayne, our guys, VMware creates a delta disk to track the changes, right? So that our original disk remains untouched. And I'll show you. You can see when you create your VMs, you'll see them uh, like I showed you a picture of it before, but you'll see them where it creates that delta disk so that your original disk remains untouched. Now, it can be split into 2 gigabit chunks. I think it's 124 megabytes is equal to 1 gig. So 2 gigabyte chunks is about 2048 megabytes for easier storage, portability, and example. So if I'm trying to store portable, like for portability and just compatibility with older file systems like FAT32, it's also good to make sure that we have those Delta disks available and that it's split into those 2 gigabit chunks. This is when we're doing thin provisioning, right? So remember that this is thin provisioning. We also, again, why does this happen? So when we split these 2 gigabit options, gigabit when it's split into 2 gigabit option, it's enabled in the VM settings for default by default. Sorry, in the VM settings or defaults, especially in older VMware products, or for just compatibility. So when you see, this is why it happens, right? So when we split it into 2 gigs, you'll see that it's enabled in our VMware settings. Okay. Remember, 1,024 megabytes is equal to 1 GB. It helps with storage systems that don't support large files, right? So back in the days, our storage systems that didn't support the large files, we would split them on purpose, and that's why we had thin provisioning. And again, it also makes for copying and moving, Wayne, when you're copying across different file systems, right? Like your USB, right, to your C drive, right, right. So your C drive to your external drive. Can you avoid it? Is another question that I wanted to mention. Yeah, if you don't want to split the files, just make sure there's an option for split virtual disk into multiple files. It's unchecked when you're creating and modifying. So when you're creating a new VM, if you were to spin up a new VM, Wayne, you'll see split virtual disks into multiple files. Just make sure that's unchecked. And again, this option only works with ESXi advanced settings that specify monolithic disks like single large files or VMware Workstation, right? So we're using VMware Workstation in this instance, in this project. So we're going to be, or Fusion as well too, if you decide to use Fusion. No pointer files. Now, the no pointer files was another question that was brought up, and I wanted to touch base on it. And again, if you just move the entire VMware folder, the VMX and the VMDK, to a new 2 terabyte Samsung drive or external drive or NAS drive, VMware will ask you to move, or if you moved or copy the VM, the next time you open it, it's just a little box pop up, and you'll see, did you move or copy it, right? What I want you to do is choose I moved it, because that's what you're moving. You're not copying it where it's existing in 2 different locations. So you're moving the files over, right? You're not really copying it. And this will avoid having to generate different MAC addresses. So that's very important. Okay. That's why we move it, right? You don't want to, especially with sysprep and different SID numbers, we want to make sure that we're avoiding generating. This is one of the reasons why we move it, so that we're not generating new MAC addresses, right? Okay. So then we would open the VMX file, guys, and then from the new location, and then we're just good to go. Again, if you wanted to remove the old entry from the recent VMs list, when we open up our uh, Workstation Pro, right? There's an option there in the library where you can kind of remove recent VMs, and you can just move that there. You also hear the word Delta disk, which is another important topic, because it is important to note, especially when you're dealing with this kind of stuff in the work environment. Just know the difference between the current state of the VM and when the previous snapshot was taken. So if you hear what a Delta disk is, it just shows the difference between the current state of the VM and its state when the previous snapshot was taken. Right? So when a snapshot is taken, the virtual machine's base disk, so the VMDK file, is marked as read-only, and you'll see that. And then a new Delta disk is created to store any subsequent changes. Okay? Easy. Again, this
Yes.
just consists of small descriptor files and a descriptor file and a file that contains raw data. So that is important to note. We also talked about log files, and log files are used for replication VMs, right? So they're used to replicate. So you'll see that sometimes you'll get an error, and this is why you'll get the error. These are some of the issues why you'll get the error. And in order for your machine, and maybe this could be an issue that you're facing, Wayne, is to remove the log files, right? So to prevent simultaneous access to the VM files that could lead to corruption or data consistency. So removing these lock files and then restarting your machine would normally fix the problem. And again, these are commonly found in VMware environments like vSphere, Workstation Pro, or Hypervisor 2 and Fusion. Now, how does a lock file work in replication? And I think I told you it creates a folder, right? So during the VM replication, these lock files ensure multiple processes. So if there was replication jobs happening, any host servers, any backup tools, um, do not modify the same VM files at the same time, the VM files at the same time. So this will allow you and ensure that those multiple processes don't modify the same VM files. So they'll create these VM lock files. So if a VM replica is being replicated, the lock file prevents another process from modifying the state, which makes sense, right? So if the VM is running, which includes your replica VM, the lock files lock its VMDK files, right? Which will probably not allow it to work, which is your virtual disk, and then your VMX, which is your configuration to prevent corruption, right? And sometimes you'll see a black disk, a blank screen where you can't open your machine, and you have to remove these lock files for it to open up. And again, these are deleted when the VM shuts down properly, right? So if the VM crashes or an improper shutdown occur, a stale lock file may remain and cause issues. And this is why, because of these stale lock files. Now, removing these stale lock files, Wayne, you should be able to start your virtual machine as if it never went down. If an old file is not removed, and again, this is an issue, it may cause the replication process to fail. The error cannot open the disk. You may have seen this or you may have not, but you will probably see this and you'll probably ask the question. You might see that. If so, delete the lock files that are inside the virtual machine folder manually and when the VM is powered off. So make sure you power off the VM, locate the lock files, delete them, and make sure that there's no replication jobs running at the same time. Um, Volatile RAM, I explained this to you, right? Volatile RAM. Just make sure that the memory snapshot is enabled. That's what that is, right? So it depends on how the snapshot's taken. So you either have a memory snapshot enabled or not included, right? And these are the differences there. So yes, to answer your question, the snapshot file does contain volatile RAM and it's created already by using our VMware, our Hyper-V, or our VirtualBox, right? So which can contain that volatile RAM, and it contains it into these two states. So when it's enabled, it includes the RAM. It takes the memory contents, like I was explaining to you the last time, and then it'll take a dump of the volatile RAM at the time the snapshot was taken, right? So knowing the different why this happens, it will give you a better understanding of snapshot files, right? And how those are created. So this will allow the VM to resume exactly where it left off, right? So if I've already created the snapshot, because of the memory snapshot enabled, um, you know, this will kind of allow that VM to resume exactly where it left off. So that's what that a volatile RAM does. In memory snapshot not included, if the snapshot only captures the disk state, then the volatile RAM is not included. So when the VM is restored, Wayne, it'll start from a powered off state rather than it resuming. So even if it was like in a suspended state, it'll automatically start off the time that it was powered off. So even if you had a snapshot of you just at the desktop, right? Right? And you took that snapshot, it'll start it'll start from a powered off state rather than it just resuming where you left off. That's what memory snapshot not include. And there's different software for this, right? So that'll actually do this stuff for you, and people actually buy this stuff. All right, so I'm done talking. It's always good to kind of go through this stuff, Wayne. Again, I don't know if we talked about the service models. I've sent you some documentation on that stuff already. But the 5 different models: the IIS, SaaS, PaaS, and function as a service. I think we discussed this stuff already. You can look at this stuff on your own time. Then to familiar yourself with cloud computing models. So know what the different models themselves do in this cloud service environments, and what the IIS provides and what the PaaS abstracts, and then what the SaaS delivers. So I'll leave this with you to read, and we'll go ahead and these are the different environments that NIST tells us. So these come in different configuration. I'll get you to read this later on. So I'm going to go ahead and get you to stop. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to get you to share your screen, if you can do that for me. And we're going to go ahead and look at the two machines that you designed. Any questions?
I'm good. Yeah, that was good. That was good.
A
Good to
lot of
review some of
good
that.
information. Perfect.
I have my screen shared. Can you see it?
I do.
Right. I bought the Samsung Magician external drive. It's 2 terabytes, and it had this little, I don't know, this little app that went with it. I installed it. It tells me everything's good, but I don't think I really need to use it for this.
Okay.
So anywho,
That's just
I'll
the
show you
physical.
what.
It's just the OS, right?
Yeah, and this is my external drive, this
Yes.
T7, and I have I tried two different ways of doing the Windows 7, and I have
Okay.
my what I did was I installed it on my regular C drive, and then I moved it over, and I did that. It asked me that question, did I move it? And I said yes. And that
That's
seems to make
exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. So just make sure that, when you move it, it doesn't generate a new MAC address, which is what you don't want, right? You want to avoid that at all possible states, right? That's why
yeah.
yeah,
So
you don't
so
copy it.
so I have the VMX file is what you click on and you can get stuff going. It looks like
Yes, so you would go in and open up the virtual disk VMDK, right? So the VMX would open up the configuration file, and that software, that script, if you open it, you can open it up in you can open this up in Notepad, believe it or not.
okay.
Yeah.
So this is my machine that I could power on. You see, I have 4 gigs of RAM,
Okay.
2 processors. I put 400 gigs in the hard drive. I don't know if that was
One disk.
enough.
Yeah. Okay.
So I have SATO. But this is well, when I downloaded the
ISO.
Windows, it created a CD drive
Okay.
for me
Okay. That's okay.
okay. Anyway, so it's still pointing to that. That's what I think that's still there. All this other stuff, and then the only thing I think now to do is to power it on. I guess.
Yeah, so I would give yourself 8 G, let's just say 6 GB max. I would shut off whatever. Remember, I told you make sure to save your space, turn off your OneDrive, have the OneDrive turned off, turn off anything that's not usable that you're not using, free up some space, and their maximum is 6. Just give it 6 for now because we're inside, and then once we're done, we can yeah. And I think it's not hot swappable. So if your machine is off, it's just like basically going to your physical machine off, you unplug all the cables, the power, and then you open it up and then you put the new stick of RAM in. Same concept. So make sure you turn off your machine.
So I should go to how do I turn off OneDrive? I go to my
Yeah,
files thing.
so in the bottom right corner, there's an arrow. It looks like, let me see if I can take control, maybe. I'll get you to do, or maybe I can do it for you if you allow me.
That's
Oh,
fine.
yeah.
Let me get you control here.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the prompt.
Let me try one more time. Let me try one more time here. Take control. I'm going to request.
Maybe I need some better glasses. I don't see the request.
Maybe it's in your other screen or behind
Yeah, I'm looking around here, my other screen.
Teams. Look at the Teams icon.
Yeah, I'm looking at my team's deal. And then I don't see it as of yet. Oh, no. No, that's just I see you on Teams. I don't see the
I want
request.
to try again.
Okay. Oh, I
There you
think I
go.
know what it is. I know what it is.
There we go.
The recording thing is in front of it, so that's a Microsoft thing.
There we go.
Give control. Got it.
Awesome.
Now, what I need to do is give you control. Yeah, yeah, you're there.
I'm there. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, the maximum recommended memory is there. So what I'm going to do is move it up to the blue triangle and give yourself 6. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to use the full 6, right? Right. And then you want your 2 processors, right? And then for Hyper-V, we're going to, this is your Windows, right? So we're going to virtualize. Remember, I told you about virtualize Intel VT. So this is what's going to allow Hyper-V to be installed on our virtual machine. You also created a NVMe disk. Perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I think we can add another one. So we'll add another hard disk. And we're going to give it a non-virtual machine. And NVMe means that you're creating a non-volatile memory virtual disk, V disk, that's when it's offline. So it'll create this non-volatile memory because there's nothing in it right now. This is what'll create the virtual disk for you before actually turning it on, right? So they say it's recommended. I usually go with the recommended state, or you can do SCSI or SATA, whatever you want, right? But typically go with what the recommended state is. And for this one, we're going to create a new virtual disk, and you'll see the VDM, and we'll give this about let's say 400, just to give yourself. And then the split virtual disk. Remember what we said about splitting it? It'll give you that segment, plus it'll give you the delta disks, and it'll give you the other disks that we talked about. So I'm going to split them. Just because your computer's small, it's got 8 GB, and it's not a server where it's high class, where we can actually create a single file. And there are times where we do need to create single files, but in this instance, it's just a test environment. So we can use the split virtual disk, right? I'm just going to click next, and then that's going to create a -0. As you can see, this is -1. This isn't a dash. This is just a Windows Server 2019 VMDK, and this is -0, right? And then you can browse and then put it wherever you want. But in this,
This is the second disk.
This is the second disk. This is the second disk, yeah.
And that
In our
has its
virtual
own
machine.
name.
Yeah, it's got its own thing. Yeah, it's got its own name, right? Then we're going to click finish. So we have our 2 disks, and then this is where SATA disk is. And now make sure that we're connected at power on and it's connected. If it's not, grayed out, don't worry about it. If it was on, then just make sure it's connected. And we're pointed to the downloads folder or to your D drive. Where do you want to save this? Because remember, you want to save space on your C drive, right? So what I would recommend too is cut this. Well, what I would do is go here, create this for you there. And we'll call this software, right?
Okay.
Right. And then in here is where we're going to we're going to take the software, all the software that which would be this one here, the latest one, and then you could delete these after.
Will
Okay.
do.
All right, and let's see if it's there now. And if we go to software, and then give yourself folder names, right? You can give yourself like Microsoft Server, right? Make it more, right? We can create like dash, right? Right? And then you can have a dash 2. We can have Ubuntu, right? Server. And then you could put your version if you want, your 24.xx, whatever, right? And then you could put your ISO in there. And then there was another one, I think it was VMware Tools. VMware Tools. You understand where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just make that a little bit cleaner so that way it's organized. And then this is where you could put your tools in there. And again, later on you're gonna shift them. You can just copy and paste them. But in this instance, what I'm gonna do is just copy this one here and then delete the rest, right? And then make another one for Magician installer. So I'm going to cut this so that I remove it from my C drive, and then these ones I'm going to delete. Delete. Oh, well, anyways, you have to delete these later. But so what I'm going to do is I cut that one, and then I'm going to go to my D drive software, go to my server 19, and I'm going to, if it allows me to paste it, yes. And then I'm just going to open it. Just remember to delete everything on the C drive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's pretty quick. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. So as you can see, I'm using the D drive, right? And then again, here's the advanced options where you can kind of detect your devices, right? So if you had a SCSI, SATA drive, right, this is what will detect those. But that's done. And then we also forgot to add a extra NAC card. Remember we told two NAC cards? So what I'm gonna do is add an extra NAC card. All right. One's gonna be VMware, one's gonna be virtual, um, custom, and one's gonna be for internet. So I'm just gonna add another network card, right? And again, this is not physical, this is software based, right? So this is all
Mm-hmm.
virtual, it's all software, right? So one's gonna be VMware specific, right? Which is our internet NAT, and that's on a VLAN pretty much. And then the other one is
Oh,
just
okay.
a NAT card, right? Um, that's just, but it's in a VLAN itself. So there's your configuration file, right? That's your VMX file, right? So you should be able to now make this a little bit bigger. And remember what I told you? You need to double click inside this black area here, Wayne, when we
Yes.
power it on, right? Or if you
Right.
want, you can also, again, we can check the BIOS first, like I showed you. It'll power on, and then this will be our BIOS, right? Right. So you
Oh,
can
wow.
actually start. Yeah, this is our BIOS basically. We can actually start from our. If we double click on it, click inside, we should be able to now move the mouse. There you go. Right. So we can actually boot from the SATA, right? Or we can boot from network if it's Pixie related, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or we can just boot normally. So if we were to boot normally, remember,
And
okay,
EFI stands for, you know what that stands for?
EFI, off the top of my head,
Well,
not
it has
really.
what is next to it. That's fine.
Yeah, no, but yeah, EFI, no, not at the top of my head. But um okay, so UEFI, there's EFI or UEFI. It's just the it's just what it supports. It's the firmware inside of it.
Oh, okay. Sort of like instead of the BIOS, it has something else.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a firmware. The F is a firmware because it's firmware. Um, and then I is interface. Extension or extensive or something like that. I can't remember, but it's something E firmware interface. So the E, and then there's UEFI, which is which is sort of, and that's our legacy BIOS, right? So EFI is extensible interface, and I'll pop this in the chat for you, okay? Uh, and this is more for like legacy BIOS types, right? Do you guys ever remember? Do you remember ESP with the EFI extensions back in the days? Um, Wayne?
No, I don't. Yeah, if I was there, I just don't remember it.
Yeah. Well, I'll put this in the chat for us. One sec here. Put this in the chat. Yeah, this is for us to look into after, and I'll add that in the doc as well too, as a good read. Um, but it is used in, like, OpenShift does use it. Like OpenShift uses it a lot. They use EFI mode. Um, when you're dealing with OpenShift. So there's a lot of virtual EFIs they call when with Red Hat. So if we're installing Red Hat, our EFI is like what initializes the hardware, right? So and the operating system. So when the computer starts, that's what it'll initialize it. So without that, we can't initialize hardware components, or we can initialize the image files. Okay.
Okay.
And in I think in open not in OpenStack, but in OpenShift, it uses a YAML file, right? We'll define that object. So if we open up that YAML file, we can tell whether or not EFI is enabled, if that feature is enabled or the firmware is enabled in that actual file. So we can actually boot with EFI mode or UEFI mode, right? Dependent on what we're enabling for and what we're doing it with, right? So in this case, I think with Linux, Red Hat, we use that YAML. There's a YAML file, and I'll teach you what YAML file is later on. But in that YAML file, we can actually enable it. But in this instance, in our boot manager, yeah, it still uses EFI because obviously vSphere is Photon based, right? Which is a Linux based. So Linux uses EFI for firmware. Good question. You was gonna bring that up in a later class, but good question. I'll talk about it again later on. But okay, so we're gonna either boot from our CD-ROM drive, right? Wayne, let me double click here. Let me see if I can get it
Okay.
here.
I'm sorry. I gotta do that.
Yeah, yeah. You might have to boot normally for me. Yeah,
So
can you go off
I need
boot
to
normal,
do.
boot normally, and then
So what do you mean?
I want you to load the ISO for me.
You don't mean Control Alt Delete. You mean something else, right?
No,
You,
yeah, it's sort of like Control Alt Delete, like when you're loading the operating system. You need to load the
oh,
operating
see, I'm
system,
sorry.
right?
I was looking. I
So
didn't look.
Control
So,
Alt is what? Control Alt will
so I should
remove your mouse. Yeah,
suppress this.
yeah,
Boot
suppress
on.
it. Yeah, and then boot. Yeah, double click and boot. Press any key. Oh, there we go. You missed it. So when you see the press any key, I'm gonna take a picture of this for you, and I'm gonna
Mhm.
put this in our notes because
This
this
is
is
where I got
important.
lost last time.
Okay, so what you need to do is you need to double click inside of a black area. So that'll allow you to manipulate the inside of the VM. In order to remove yourself from the VM, you're clicking on Control Alt to return to your computer. So if you click in quickly and you press any button or any key, that'll boot from your CD or DVD. So you need to do this quickly. So what I want you to do is right click here where it says Windows Server 19, and I'm going to put this in the chat for notes. I took a picture of that, right? Yeah. I want you to power off the machine, right? Right. So if you right click on the tab here, you see where I am here, and you go to power, right? You're gonna power on or start up, right? So in this case, you're gonna power on a bare metal machine. There's nothing in it. There's no operating system, right? So you're gonna power on, and then this is where you have to kind of hurry up and click inside, right? All right, so that your mouse is ready, and then press any key when it asks you to. There we go. So that'll load all ISO files, which is perfect. That's what we want. We're going to
I did
install
get
our
this
operating
far.
system.
I did get this far, but yeah, that took me a while to figure that out.
No, no worries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish. I'm going to install this for today, and then we'll continue tomorrow if you're free. Morning, you free tomorrow? Okay. Well,
Yeah, let me check.
I'll take a look. I'll take a look at the schedule. I'll let you know, and we'll continue on our next class. But for now, what I want you to do is to get this up and running because this is important too, right? It's already 6. I think we're almost done for today. But can I take a look at the Ubuntu server that you designed? How did that go? There was another server that you have? Okay. So this is where we're going to install our desktop version versus our hyper, which is our store.
So do I need to install this? Do I need to install?
Hey, Wayne, can you hear me? You see my mouse
Yes.
here? You see where it
I,
says data center evaluation? The last
yes.
option here. Can you click on
Yeah.
that? Yeah, and then click next. I just want to get this installed first, and then okay. So installation was canceled. What happened? What happened?
Yeah,
You
this is
down?
where I had this
Did
is
you
where I had my question.
download? Did you download the evaluation?
What it asked me, it wanted me to put in some license number, which I didn't have a license number, so I just kept pressing enter.
Okay, just hit OK. See what happens. Do you have an evaluation?
I thought I did, but it kept asking me for a license, and I would just say press enter. It said you can do it later.
Mm.
I got some message
Yeah,
about I could.
in our evaluation, it gives you 180 days for free. So double click, press enter, double click, double click. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so this will our evaluation copy will give us a free evaluation for 180 days, which is about 6 months. So in that instance, we should be able to download. If not, download the standard evaluation. It's not a problem. But you should have downloaded the evaluation copy, which gives us 6 months.
Yeah, I used it. I just used the link that you gave me.
Mhm. Give it 1 second. Just let it load. Yeah. So typically you're downloading the 64-bit version, and then the evaluation should work. Battery's low. You might have to plug it in. Make sure you plug it
Uh,
in.
yes, I
And
will
this is
do that.
2019, right? So hit
Yes.
close. Good job so far. Good, good, good.
Uh,
There.
second, I'll get that.
Yeah, just click close. 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 Yeah, you plugged it in. Not yet. Does looks like you're still on. Says your battery is running low. Click close, and then yeah, make sure you plug it in. And did we turn off? Did we turn off OneDrive? Yeah, we turned off OneDrive. Okay. All right. So typically, I would want you to install the data center because it's
I'm back.
yeah. So typically I would want you to install the data center version, right? But it doesn't matter. I wanted you to install it. But again, let's try the install the standard evaluation, the second option, and click next.
Just that one.
Yeah, and then click next. Slow down one. Don't. Okay. So any changes that we cannot find the make sure that the installation source installation sources are valid. Installation sources are valid. You know, I've never seen that in my life. Give me 1 second. All right, can you show me where you download it? Let's try to download this again.
Certainly.
Or what we'll do is I'm gonna try one more thing here. Right click. Can you right click here?
Right click on.
This tab here where I am. Right click. Right click. Yep. Go to settings and then change the D drive to C drive. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, double click on that. Okay. Browse, browse, and go to your D drive. Go to software. Go to yep. Double click. Delete all the other ones after, please. Left click on that. Yeah, and then open, 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 mount, and then open, open. Okay, okay. So there's the files. It looks fine to me. There's no issues here. So it's mounting. Okay, close that. So now try to reboot the machine again, and then
And
move the memory to move the memory. What happened to the rest of our disks?
so I need
Okay,
to.
can you give it 6 GB of memory? Give it a second disk for me. So move it to the blue arrow. Yeah, blue arrow. The blue arrow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it max 6. All right. Then a disk. Add a second hard disk.
I pressed OK. I
That's okay.
pressed OK before the
That's
hard
okay.
disk
That's okay.
changed.
That's okay. That's okay. And the SATA looks like it's pointing to the right direction. The hard disk, you want to create another disk. Oh, right. Power off the machine.
Okay. You don't want to do the disk change.
No. Well, no, yeah. Power off the machine. All right. Power off. I want you to delete both disks and create them again. Delete the disk and create it. Delete the hard disk. So edit the virtual machine settings.
So this hard disk, I want
Yeah.
to.
Delete it. Remove.
There's a remove button
There's
somewhere.
a
I'm trying.
remove, yeah, just at the bottom there where it says add.
Oh, got it.
Okay? I want you to create 2 disks.
And I press OK.
No, but yeah, before you do that, add it. And then before you do that, add.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Hard disk. Click next. Yeah. Okay. Next. Next. Uh, put,
It's the sizing we want.
yeah, put 250.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. We could put as much as we want, right? It's not
We
a
had
sin.
400 before. That's what I was
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah. Let's put 500. Let's put 500. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah. We can use this as our software storage. Delete the, yeah. Delete the point. Delete the point. Yeah. Delete that. Yeah. Next. We don't have 500. Remember that, right? So, and then add again and do another one. New disk, create it. Yeah. Next. Okay. Next. 500. Oh, back. Slow down. uh, slow down. Don't click. Don't click anything. Slow down. All right. Remove it and then add it again. Okay. Try another one. 500. Next. Okay. Change the max this side to 5. We're not going to use 500, but we're learning how to create these, right? Next. Finish. Perfect. All right. Okay. So we have our machine. We have our 2 NATs. Power on the machine. Then double click quickly, and then when it asks you to press any key, load the machine. Hit OK. Double click. Okay. And then Control G, or do Control G or Control Alt to remove it. Control G to go inside, and then Control Alt to remove yourself out. Yeah. Do you have your Ubuntu machine?
I do have one. Yes.
Okay, can you open it for me?
The only way you know how to do it is just go to the drive and just click on it. Um,
Yeah, the one that we have. Yep. I should open it up. Okay, choose the second option. There we go. Well, you can power that on too if you want. Power it on. Is that the one that you made, or is that the one that we made?
together. I add a little bit to it.
Start up the guest. Just let it go. There's no, you don't have to boot the machine. Yeah. Okay, so there's no memory right now, so you might have to wait. You might have to shut the machine off in order to turn these both on at the same time. That's okay. We know that we have the file. So go to the server machine right now. Go to the server, Windows Server 2019. Windows Server 2019. Okay, choose the second option. And then click next. All right, stay there. Okay, we might have to create a new machine. Oh. All right, so let's create a new machine. Hit OK and create a new machine. And we'll delete this one. Remember what I said. Make sure not to remember the option. We'll install the operating system later. When we create that machine, maybe you chose install disk image file. And that's what happened. Okay, delete the machine.
Windows.
Yeah, so delete it. Yeah, so we're gonna power it off and we're gonna physically delete it. We're gonna delete it from your computer. We're gonna create it again. So delete physically, turn it off. Turn it off. I can't click. I can't do anything here. Sorry, man. It won't let me right click. It won't let me left click. I don't know what's going on. Power it off. Power off.
Is that a permissions issue, you think?
No, I know it's when you went into the when you created the new virtual machine, the guest operating system install, first option it gives you three options. You chose the second when you were supposed to choose the third, but it's okay. I think I know what the issue is. So we're gonna go to file and create a new machine, and I'll tell you where the problem laid. That's what, remember when I told you, and I told you in one of the videos, I go, make sure you choose this option because or else you're gonna get an error when you're installing the server. So what we'll do is we'll create go to file, go to a new virtual machine. Okay, go to typical, and this is where you had the issue. Or next. See that right there? Right there, that's what screwed it up right here. The second option. So choose the third option, and that'll fix your problem. So click next. Now duplicate the device. So whatever I have here, 6 GB, 2 processors, 2 disks. You're choosing the operating system version, which is 2019. Yeah, and then click next. So this will fix the problem. Next. You're gonna go back. Slow down. All right. You're gonna back. Okay. Okay. Next. All right. Name your virtual machine. So name it first name, Windows Server, and then the date. Wayne. So we know you did it. Yeah. And then today's date. So that was your problem there, that first option. You chose the middle option. Because remember, you don't have a machine yet, so there's no bare metal. You're not physically installing the operating system. That'll never work. You need a machine first. It'll create the VMX files. It'll create all of the configuration files, and then from there, yeah, perfect. And then change the location. Browse. We're going to scroll down all the way down. Go to your D drive. Go to Wayne's virtual machines. Scroll down. We're gonna create a new folder inside. Create a new folder, and you're gonna name it Windows Server 2019 Wayne Collier in today's date. This could be your domain controller, it could be a member server, it could be anything you want it to be, right? You can install your Hyper-V on this one. It's the 7th April 2025. Yeah. And then no, wait a second. Then click outside of it. Yeah. So it creates it. Yeah. All right. And then make sure you click on that because it says new folder, right? So click on the one on top of it, above it. Click, yeah. Yeah, so you'll see the folder name, right? And then click at the bottom of it. Yeah, below that, it'll click on that and then hit OK because you're now selecting that browser, that folder, right? So hit OK. So that's the folder you want to save it at. So you're going to create this machine and it's going to create this machine in this location. Once we've done all that, we made the selection. Therefore, the default selection, again, we can always change it. Now, in this instance, we're just going to click next because that's correct. We're going to give ourselves 500 GB. 500 GB. Next. And that looks good, right? So we're just going to finish it. Right? So this will create it now, right? This will create our disk. This is our new machine. Now what I want you to do is change the memory from 2 GB to 6 GB. Right to that, yeah, the max, just because we're installing the machine. And then once we're done installing this operating system, Wayne, we'll move it back to 2 GB so that way you have more space and you can create more. You can have two machines open at the same time. So you have 2 GB. Put it to 6, please. So click on the blue arrow. Okay, that'll select the memory. Remember, it's in megabytes. So 1 gigabyte is 1024. Okay.
Network adapter.
Yeah, you want to add no, so 6 GB, right? And then go to network adapter and add another network adapter. Add. Yeah. Okay. Fourth option. Yeah. Click next. Oh, you're adding a disk. Okay. Okay. Thought we're adding a network adapter. So we're going to create a new virtual disk. That's fine. We're going to click next. All right. You're going to split the virtual disk in multiple files. Maximum disk size is 500. We're going to click next. Next. Finish. Okay, perfect. So you got 2 disks. Now, next is your network adapter. You want to add your second network adapter, which is the 4th option right there. Click finish. And our first network adapter is going to be on VLAN 8, which is defined as NAT. Custom. And we're going to go down to the list, down the list.
And let me put, oh,
VMNet.
and press OK.
Yeah. And then power on. As the sorry. And then in the CD DVD, right? I want you to mount, make sure it's powered on. I want you to use ISO image, which is perfect. It's set up. Use ISO image. Click on it. Use ISO image. Click on that. Yeah. And then hit OK. So that's our software, right? Hit OK. And then power on. And then this should basically go past power on the virtual machine. And then click inside a black area. Hit OK. Click inside, right? Or Alt G, Control G, and then boot. Yeah. Oh, you got to do it again. Restart the machine.
You start guess.
Yeah, just restart it. Well, it's a bare metal. You don't restart it usually when it's more reset. You can reset it. I would normally reset it because it's a new machine. So reset the configuration setting. But usually if there's an operating system, yeah, you want to restart the guest. Reset. Reset.
Reset? Oh,
Reset.
reset. Okay.
Reset. No. Remember, it's a physical machine. There's no operating system yet. Click inside, boot. There we go. There we go. All right. And where it says I finished right here where I am, you see my mouse here? Follow me for a second there. Can you click on that X there? You see my mouse?
I see it. Mine's just not
Okay.
moving.
All right. And then close this yellow box.
Um,
Close the yellow box. There's an X there. Yeah, there's a gray. Yeah. So you should now be able to go past this. We're going to choose the data center option, Wayne. And then we're going to stop here. And then see how we moved past it. Now we actually got some more information here. So in this instance, we're going to choose our time and currency to US, which is perfect. If you were in Canada, you would choose Canada. If you were in India, you would choose India. If you were in Europe, you would choose Europe. If you were in South America, you would choose South America. And the language is based on the language that you normally speak on where you're located, right? So if you were in a French, if this was a English and French company where they expected English and French, you can install both. This would be a French machine. We can install the French language here. So I want you to click next, next, and install now. So that was your problem there. So your problem was basically when you'd first created the machine, you chose the option, and I'll send a snapshot here in the chat just to kind of give you an idea of where and what you were supposed to do. I'm gonna copy the error, and I'm gonna put the error in the chat for you to. I'll put this in our notes so that we have it in our notes too.
What's on the screen now? It seems like deja vu. It seems like we just saw that.
What happened? Okay, so what I want you to do now is choose the fourth option, and this is not going to error out anymore. You're not going to error out. Click next. There we go. Not going to error out. There you go. Perfect. So accept the license terms and click next. And you are going to do custom because you're not upgrading, right? And then you're just going to do next, next, next because your both disks are there. Next. You're not allocating the 500. We're going to show you how to do RAID later with this disk. I'm going to show you how to initialize the disk. Remember we talked about that? And then we're going to install the role, hypervisor role on this machine so that you can learn how to create a virtual machine also on Hyper-V. Once this is done, and I'm going to show you how to, if you right click, I want you to take a snapshot of this machine once you are logged in with your administrator account. You remember how to take the snapshot, Wayne?
Snapshot of the virtual machine.
This virtual machine, yeah. So when our virtual machine is installed, our hardware is configured, our resources are created, our operating system is now being installed. Once the operating system is installed, the user gets created. So once the user gets created, you're able to log in without touching or making any changes to the software or settings. We're going to take a snapshot of the machine as is. Okay? And I'll show you how to create so if you click on this tab here, I'll just show you where to take it. I think I showed you the last video as well too. But if you right click on this tab, right click on it, where it's a snapshot, yeah, and take a snapshot. But you're not going to do that now. And then you're going to create your name. You're going to say snapshot 1 virtual machine, and then created bare metal. Right? Gave it the resources, gave it RAM, CPU, blah, 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 and then the amount, and then installed Microsoft Server, Windows Server 2019 Data Center Evaluation OS, and then created local administrator account. And then that's it. That's when you create that. That's going to be your first snapshot.
Okay.
Um, I wish you had more memory. You can turn on the machine. Did you create the Ubuntu server? Can you create one for me for a next class? Now that you have, did you create one already, or did you just create this one?
Just the Windows server.
Okay, so delete the one that you created from your disk, from your hard disk, and from the C drive, and then delete the ISOs that you're not using. The ISOs should be what I want you to do is move all the ISOs from the C drive. That's your assignment. Move all the ISOs from the C drive to your D drive. I created the folders for them. So your ISO for the Ubuntu in the ISO folder, and then your VMware tools, and then your Magic partition as well too. I want you to move that to your D drive because you want to keep space on your disk, right? For you to do your work. And then when you're not using
Oh,
these machines, I want you to suspend these machines or power off the machines. Okay? Any
that's my homework.
questions? That's it, buddy. I'll show you. Actually, what we can do is I'll show you if I'm able to, if it lets me. Yeah. Okay. So these two we're gonna delete. Right? You don't need these anymore.
That's D. I need those, right?
No. No.
Oh, okay, got it.
No. You have it already.
Got it. Yeah, that's right. We created
You
the
have
infrastructure.
you have a if you look at the software, right? These are your this is your ISOs. So I'm gonna rename this for you. Anyway, so this is your ISO. The virtual machines should be here. These are the two virtual machines that are working, right? You have your Windows server, and then you have your Ubuntu server that I created, right? So what I want you to, and then this is you're not really using because you have to remove it, right? So this is where you can actually delete it. Close the tab, right? And then you can actually delete it from here too if you want. So, can you make this a little bit bigger? So I should be able to delete these here. Can you delete these 5 servers here in the middle of the Ubuntu and the delete, right click, right click, right click, yeah, right click, remove. Yeah, remove. So you're removing it from the library. Remember we talked about that? And then right click these 4, the 4 that you created. Yeah. Remove, remove. All right. Where did you save these? And then I want you to delete them. It'll show you the path that you saved them in. I want you to delete those, and then you should be able to delete those machines now that are here. That's why it wouldn't let you delete that folder here. So delete these 3. Any questions? It'll
This
take
one
you
here
some
doesn't
time.
say.
Yeah.
This doesn't give me an option to remove here.
Right click
Remove.
again.
There it is.
Yeah. Right click again. Yeah. Just remember where they installed, right? So right click because we're installing the operating system right now, right? So it says cannot open it. That's fine because you're not using that anymore because you're gonna delete them now from the C drive. Remove. So do you understand where I'm going with this? So your error was stemming off that first option. So I'm gonna take a picture of it so that you
Okay,
have
that'd be helpful.
yeah, I'm gonna send that in our chat so you could see that in our chat, but I'm also gonna put that in our notes so that when you look at the notes, I'm gonna show the error that you had, and you'll get those notes later on tonight, but you'll see the pictures. Um, what I want you to do is create another one, create 2 of them, man. That way you have them created and turn them off when you're not using it. Once you're done installing the operating system and you've installed the user, you've created an administrator user and you've given it a password, right? You've given it the password, then what you're going to do is power off the machine, right? You're going to give it a snapshot and you're going to you're going to move the virtual RAM from 6 GB to 2 GB. and then you're going to create a snapshot. Make sense?
Right.
So
After I
when
do
this,
all those configurations and everything's
you've,
done, I'm gonna take a snapshot. On this
yeah,
one, I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
take.
yeah, you're going to take a
So
snapshot
after
of
this
it.
finishes up, I have to do what after this finishes up to.
So once this finishes up, it's going to finish up. It's going to restart. It's going to tell you to create, give your administrator, local administrator account a password. Once you've signed in, right, and you're on the desktop, log out or sign out, right, or shut down, right? Then once your machine is shut down, you're going to go to the top here, that white tab. You're going to right click. You're going to go to settings. You're going to change 6 GB of DRAM, virtual RAM, and you're going to change it to 2 GB. Then you're going to turn on the machine, which means that your machine is now okay. It's going to run. It's going to run off 2 GB. So even if you have 8 GB laptop, you're still going to run it. You're not going to run the full. Remember what I told you? You're not going to run the full 2 GB. You're going to run half of the 2 GB. You're going to probably run a gig at most. Just remember, the more you install on that 2 GB, then obviously it's going to take up resources from your laptop, right? The bigger your laptop, like in terms
Okay.
of RAM and CPU, obviously you would have been able to do you would have been able to create 4 machines and have them both turned on, right? If you have a laptop that's got 32 GB, then you could have had 4 virtual machines on at the same time with 8 gigabytes each. Okay? You understand? So
Yeah.
you understand, or it's too fast?
No, you're fine. At the bottom, it's talking about VMware tools. I just say never mind.
I'm gonna show you how to do that later. Don't touch that. Just
Okay.
remind me later. I'm gonna show you to do this later. That's important, but I'll show you to do that later. Remind me later. Remind me later because it's pretty much easy. It's pretty much. I'll show you how to do that later. So I want you to click on remind me later, Wayne. Click Control Alt to remove yourself. Yeah, and then remind me later. So it's installing now. I think we're gonna finish after this, but it's installing now. Um, Once you've created your administrator account, I want you to log in. I want you to give it a password. Doesn't matter what the password is. Um, right. It'll tell you to create the password. You're not gonna boot from the ISO again, but we're gonna actually. It's gonna pretend that the ISO is still there. You're just gonna ignore it. Let the dots um, keep let the dots keep coming. Once the dots are done, it'll just load the operating system then. So we're gonna create the user now.
How do I click on here?
Sorry.
How do I click? I can't click on.
Remember, Control Alt, double click.
Okay, I'm
So,
there now.
create your administrator password. Remember this much. Write it down somewhere.
Finish. Oh, cool. So that's all I need to do, and I need to do a snapshot, right?
Yes. So I'm gonna get you to. What I want you to do is remove the first thing. Go to settings. Remove the ISO from the CD DVD. Remove the ISO. So go to CD DVD SATA. Click on it.
Yeah.
All right. I want you to remove it. Remove. No, sorry. Go to use physical drive. Click on the use physical drive. Will it let you or no? Is it grayed out? Yeah. And then click OK. So you're auto detecting now the disk, which is what you want. You're not detecting the ISO. So that option to do what you want it to do won't affect it. So are you able to log in? Can you log in for me? So I want you to do a Control Delete. You see the three buttons here at the top, the three squares. That's your Control Delete. That's the only way you can log in. So remember that. That's the shortcut right there. That button. That's your Control Delete. Okay. So if you need to log in, click on that button first, and then put your password in. So this will create your user profile. Perfect. And we're almost done for today. Once you've logged in, okay, you're in now. I want you to right click here. Right click. Right click. Yeah. And snapshot. Take snapshot. Okay. I want you to take snapshot and write your Windows Server. Snapshot 1 equals Windows Server. Yeah. On today's date. So you know the date that you took it. Windows Server. Wayne's Windows Server or WC Server. I would call it WC Server. Give it a brand. Uh, and then today's date. So you know you created it. And then in the description, you're going to make it as descriptive as possible. You're going to give it some descriptions saying, hey, I created the virtual machine, created the bare metal machine, gave it 6 GB of RAM, 2 500 gigabyte disks, 2 vCPUs, vCPUs. Oh, yeah, 2 disks, 2 vCPUs, and 2 times 500 GB disks. Go back. Remember, this is hyper-threading, so remember we're using virtual, right? We're not using the full 2 CPUs or 10 cores. We're giving it you're using basically 500. And then what else did we give it? Two NIC cards. 2 times NIC. 2 times NIC adapters. Network interface cards. We call those VNICs. VNICs in a virtual environment. They're logical. Or logical disks or whatever logical NIC cards. That's it. Right? One is VMNet 8 and the other one is NAT. So this is your server, Wayne. If have you ever logged into one before in your past?
Machine?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you know how to work your way around this stuff, right? Okay. So take the snapshot. Remember at the bottom left corner there, you'll see a percentage saving state where where it says 43 degrees Fahrenheit cloudy. You'll see saving state. Once that hits 100, you know it's done. You can power off the machine.
See a status of anything right now.
At the bottom left corner where it says cloudy. Bottom left corner of your laptop, not the virtual machine, not the hypervisor, the laptop. The laptop on the left side, the left side.
Yeah.
All the way, yeah, right there. Up top, above that, you'll see saving state.
Got it.
So where it says saving state, once that's done, you're going to power off the machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to give it 2 GB. So basically, if your machine crashes today, you can go back to the state to this snapshot file. You can delete it and you'll be created again. And yeah, you'll have a snapshot
Also,
file to
since
go
it's
back.
a snapshot, it'll also have our what's in RAM.
Yeah, it'll have whatever you have, right? Your original design.
Okay, good stuff.
All right. I want this to hopefully this finishes a little bit quicker so I can get you to open up. But can you do me a favor for your next assignment?
Okay.
Um, I want you to create two machines. One OS Ubuntu server as is, as I left it because I created the last time, and then another Windows Server 2019 and call that two. So call that Windows Server like WC Server 02 and 01. Call it. Can you do that? And then create the snapshot file for that. And
Sure.
then once the snapshot file is created, power off the machine and change its RAM from 6 GB to 2 GB. That way you can power it on again and install. And then we can go ahead and install the Hyper-V role. I'll show you how to install, and I'll show you how to work with RAID. Actually, you can do RAID now while you're at it. If you go to computer management, go to the start menu and type in computer management.
Okay, so I need to go where now?
Go to the start menu. I can't. I wish I can. I can't do anything. I can't click on anything. Can I try to share my screen again? Let me try to take control.
Yeah.
It's hard to get you to steer everything, Wayne. So that's why I ask for control. Okay, let me see if I can control it now. Will it let me? No, not letting me. What do you have? Yeah, you remember, I told you 80%. I need 75 to 80%. Because it's got the operating system right now. It's working on the this memory here is throttling high. It's because I think of this. So maybe once this is completed, it will you should have a minimal of 75% to 80% at all times. Sort of like what auto scaling, right? Like, do you remember with auto scaling, you can set in AWS, you can set the percentage of the machines. Like if they all run at 70% or 75%, it'll auto scale it. Right? And that'll give it its RTO. Um, right, Wayne? It can translate how fast that it would scale up when we have sudden spikes in traffic, right? So that'll also help with reducing our downtime, especially in a Hyper 2 environment. With the resources that we have, we're gonna have a lot of downtime, right? Um, so try to minimize. And I think Teams, if you can do me a favor the next time, Wayne, if you can try instead of using the desktop version, try to use the web version of Teams
Okay.
because that takes up a lot of memory. So close your OneDrive, close your WhatsApp,
Yeah, I
put
think we
it.
never did close OneDrive.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. Don't see it, but I think I still. I don't know. I don't think it's on. Even if we
Okay.
go to, let's see if the resources will tell us here. One sec.
Oh, I think we did kind of quiet
Did
that
we?
down.
Did we?
Yeah, I think we probably did.
Yeah. So what I would recommend too, Wayne, is if we go to Task Manager, it'll tell us what processes are running, right? Um, but just make sure to keep that memory below 60 to 80 at all times, right? That's why I get you to run one machine at a time. The more memory you remember, you have 8 GB. If you had a 16 GB laptop, I'd have both of them running at the same time, right? Or 32 GB laptop. But at this point, is we do with what we have. I've been through much worse situations, so we just got to take a little bit of time, right? Can you click on the process? Can you get the processes for me here, Wayne? Can you show me your processes? Yeah, show me your processes, please. I want you to look for OneDrive. Is it there? OneDrive there?
I
You
don't
see
see
it?
it.
Go to details. Details. Click on the name. Okay. Go to OneDrive. Look for OneDrive. OneDrive. Scroll down. Oh, I don't see it. Okay, that means that it's not there. But there's a lot of Microsoft Edge. A lot of Teams takes up a lot of space. So if you click on memory here, uh, yeah, uh, this will help save. If you click on the memory tab, click on the memory tab, and I want you to scroll all the way up. Scroll all the way up, all the way up, all the way. So right now you have these top 10 that are taken up. Even your well, I'm not gonna say to not do that, but you can pause your you can't really pause your antivirus software, but um anything that will help. Remember that, Wayne, especially when we're starting today's session. Try to use Teams. I would write this down. I would use Teams. Here, you want to open up Notepad for me? Notepad? Show you. So this is what I want you to do. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. New tab. Yeah. So can I type? Well, let me type, I hope. Let me see if I could type. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So today is April 7th, 2025. So what I would recommend, Wayne, is create 2 virtual machines as we did together, right? Right? So first with as we did together using the same hardware resources, right? Install the Windows Server OS on first virtual machine, right? And then install Ubuntu OS on second virtual machine. Okay.
Okay.
Or actually,
I thought you wanted me to do a second Windows machine.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're gonna create more two more virtual machines as we did together. So using the same hardware resources, right? And then two, install the Windows Server 2019 OS on first virtual machine, right? Right? Um, right? And then create an administrator
You mean Windows
user
Server on the second? Because I'm gonna do two. I might have two
two
total.
machine two. Yeah, yeah. So listen. So what you're gonna do is you're on. Okay, so create 2 more virtual machines. Install it on the first virtual machine,
I got it. Okay.
right? So this is gonna be called Wayne C server, right? 02, and then date, right? Day, month,
Got
year, right? That makes sense?
it.
Okay. And then this is going to be called um, Wayne C OpenStack OpenStack Ubuntu server 02 dash DD month year. Okay? Easy? So that's what I want you to do.
Got
Right?
it.
Whatever. Or we can do, doesn't matter how you create it, but I would recommend you put Wayne. You could do Wayne C dash Ubuntu, right? Or Ubuntu server 02. And then you can do Wayne dash server 2, which this should be Win server 02. I also want you to name these servers in the computer name. It's pretty easy. Before you do the snapshot, I want you to add this as well. So what I want you to do is type in this. Remember this, okay? Settings, right? And I want you go to rename this computer. This is all going to be in the video. Change. Can you click on change for me? Right? And then name it this, what I showed you, or close to it. Doesn't have to be exactly, but close to this, right? So you would name this computer WC dash, double click. Can you double
Just
click
name
for
it.
me?
Yeah.
Actually, no, this is not, no, this is the wrong computer. You have
Yeah.
to do you have to do this in the operating system of the machine, not your laptop. So we're doing this in our laptop right now. Right, so close that, but you kind of get the gist of it. You
Yeah, I
can,
have to
yeah,
name the machine. Yeah.
yeah. So
I'll
you're,
spend some time on that.
yeah. So create the user, administrator user, user's password only, right? And then I want you to
Take the snapshot.
create um using server manager or system properties, right? So the system properties is sysdm.cpl, right? Remember, you can run this command. Run this command, right? And this has to be done. So inside your virtual machine OS, right? You can use either server manager, right? Right? Or system properties. And I showed you that's going to be in the video. Uh, so properties. And then after you're done with that, you've named it. You've created a username, users and password. You're going to log in to administrator, log in with administrator, right? Okay. And then once you're inside the virtual machine's operating system, you can either use the server manager or system properties, right? Command, the sysdm.cpl command, to change the computer name, right? And the computer name is in brackets, right? So in this instance, it would be to this, right? For the first server. Then last, you're going to, once that's done, restart the computer, log in as administrator, right? And then then lastly, you're going to create a virtual snapshot. Okay. Create a snapshot. Oh, hold on. Remove Windows ISO, right? Image. Um, change RAM from 6 GB to 2 GB, right? And then shut down virtual machine, right? Then, okay, with VM off, remove ISO image, and then change the RAM from 6 GB to 2 GB. You understand that? Pretty straightforward?
Yeah, I think
Yeah?
that helps a lot. That
Yeah?
helps.
Okay,
That's good.
okay, perfect. I'll make this as easy as possible, right? That way it's in the video and we all have it. Then same thing with Ubuntu, right? You're going to follow the same steps. Um, same same steps as Windows Server. And I want you to update the Ubuntu OS. I showed you how to do that in one of the videos too. And then lastly,